So now I'm going to say hello to the archive. The archive of this session is starting. We're sharing my screen, and there's about 8 people in the session, and several of us are talking via conference call. So just can you confirm, can everybody hear me well on the phone? Okay, and does my screen look good? Is the resolution big enough that you can see clearly? Okay, cool. Okay, so I believe all of you have already signed up for your site, but I'm gonna blow through this. I'm gonna blow through these steps really quickly, just so that we can, well, at least for the archive, in case like somebody is still having trouble. So in the domain name, okay, so let me back up. What is this crazy form that you guys are filling out? This is not normally how you install a Drupal site. This is a platform called Agere that manages a lot of Drupal installations. So it's a tool that sits on top of Drupal. It's actually built in Drupal, and it's just a way of managing Drupal sites when you have a ton of them at once. And so right now we have like 75 something sites. And so in order for me to be able to manage them all at once and like migrate you to the new releases and reset your password if you need to and so forth, I'm using this Agere platform. Normally if you're just at home or in your library working with Drupal, unless you're in like a big system or you know, like an academic system or a big public library where you have a lot of different Drupal installations, you're probably not going to be using Agere. We've provided this as just an easy way to get you started. Hi, somebody just joined? Okay, well, I trust you joined and you can hear me okay. Okay, so this platform, Agere, is not something that you'll typically use. And if we have time at the end of the session today, I want to go through what we've referred to as like the more advanced installation process that you guys have skipped. I just want to demo that so that you can at least have a sense of how to do it. And I'm more than happy to set you guys up with like a little space on the server for you to do the more advanced installation if you'd like. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. I'm at the hosting signup form, and I'm going to enter the domain name. So this is the first initial of my first name and my last name. Really, just FYI, you can enter anything here. We just want to be able to keep track of whose site belongs to whom, so this is an easy way to do it. Just identify yourself with your name. I'm going to keep standard toggled. The platform, this is the newest Drupal release. I can leave domain aliases blank. I have to enter my email address and confirm it. And I have to enter a client name. And then I hit save. Oh, of course, this email already exists. So the email has to be unique, so I'm going to enter a different email address. Okay, so now the form has been submitted, and I should receive an email with my sign-up information, with my login information. I always get nervous about opening my email, like when I'm sharing my screen, because I don't know. This is my personal mail, and I'm thinking. Okay, so I haven't received the email yet. Let's just wait. The script takes a couple minutes to run. So while we're waiting, does anybody have questions? Oh, somebody can't hear. I'm jumping over to text chat to answer some questions. If you guys you know what, I hear someone talking, but I can't hear. I can't. It's not loud enough.
Okay, this is Nita. Can you hear me now?
Hi. Yeah.
Okay, in the earlier when you're creating the domain name and the next one they had an option for standard, testing, and one more thing. What does that entail? Is this for the testing purposes? Do you want to see it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Those are just different installation profiles for Drupal. When you install Drupal, it comes with some modules already enabled, and to varying degrees, there are different. The different installation profiles have different stuff enabled out of the box. So we're always just going to use standard, but for other purposes, you might use minimal or testing, and then if you're a developer and you want to get more advanced with it, you can actually create your own installation profile that would be customized for your purposes. But that's, like I said, a little more advanced. I'm going to jump back to the chat box and answer this question. Okay, any other questions at this point? Okay. So I think that email has come, and, well, it hasn't. So this is the same kind of problem that you guys were experiencing, where the email just isn't coming to you. So what I can do on my end is check and make sure that. So I'm flipping over to a different browser where I'm logged in as the admin on this Aegir platform, and I can see that the site I just created has been installed. The email hasn't come. Maybe it'll come later. Maybe it won't. But I can just grab the link from Aegir, and this is exactly what I did for you guys in a lot of cases, where I would just email you this link. And now I'm in. So I can log into my new site, set the password, and I see some validation that the password is good and that the confirm password field matches. I mentioned this, I don't know how many of you guys saw this this forum discussion, but I mentioned that it's usually good to keep the username admin so that if you need to pass off administrative duties to somebody else, you can hand over that username without having to, well, you're not giving them like your personal login. It's a neutral username. Okay, so I've configured my admin user. I'm going to hit save. I can see some confirmation that the changes have been saved. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right in and configure my site information. So I'm going to give the site a name. Sorry if I go a little bit out of order from the lessons, but this should be pretty close. So I'm going to give the site a name, Sean's demo site. I can change the email address if I want to. So if I wanted to do something like info@mylibrary.org, in other words, if you want site-generated emails to come from a more universal address and not from your personal address, you can change the site email address and save. I see a note here on chat that you guys are having trouble hearing, so let me respond via chat. Okay, so I just wanted to take a break and mention that the beta version of this Join Me software has voice over IP, and I didn't discover that until this morning. I don't know if it's like a brand new feature or what, but I'm a brand new user of this program. So anyway, like I said, it's all just kind of a trial. So I'm going to make a big push for us all to use that beta software next week. It's just going to be a different link for you guys to join up. You know, you hit this link, join.me/Sean Fitzpatrick. Next week it'll be beta.join.me/Sean Fitzpatrick. And then we can all hopefully get in via voice over IP and not have to do the phone call-in things. I know that's kind of annoying. Okay, so back to the demo. I've saved my my initial configuration, and then the next thing I usually do when I create a new Drupal site is enable some modules. So I'm going to hit the modules button on the admin link, admin toolbar, sorry, and I'm going to enable some modules from this list that I provided to you guys. Chaos Tools handles a bunch of cool stuff in the UI. It handles like a lot of cool JavaScript stuff that makes the user interface a little bit nicer. Calendar is obviously handles the calendar stuff that we're going to get into later. It's nice just to enable all your modules at once, though, so that's why we're doing it in the very first session. Date pop-up, date tools, date views. Image API handles image stuff, which we'll get to in later sessions. IMCE handles file uploading. Backup and migrate you've already used, I think. And views handles dynamic displaying of data from the site. And this is like the coolest thing that Drupal has going for it in some regards. So you'll get to see and use views for well, you know, fairly in depth later in the course. Okay, so I've checked off a bunch of modules, and I'm waiting for it to save right now. And I'm going to look at this chat question. CK editor fields that you checked in buttons and. Okay, this is a very good question via text chat. Somebody asked if I can talk about the CK editor fields. I think he or she means the buttons that we've configured and how it limits the user's ability to edit fields. Okay, so I've enabled some modules, and now it's giving me a notice that I need to like do some stuff, and this is fairly typical. The date AP, well, you know, when you enable a new module, if there's some action required on your part, the site will pop up a little message to tell you that. So I'm just going to flip over to date format settings, and just while it's asking me to do so, I'm just going to configure some things. And I see the time, it's saying it's 6:26 p.m., which is incorrect. So I wonder if there are some settings in the regional settings that need to be changed. Ah, yeah, we're on the wrong time zone. So I'm just going to quickly configure some of this stuff. I'm in Chicago, so I'm in US Central Time Zone. And I don't, I want users to have the default time zone. I don't want them to be able to configure it themselves. First day of the week is Sunday, that's good. Default country is US, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, so I've enabled a bunch of modules, and I've configured my date and time settings. And now I recommend one of the very next things you should do is enable some backups. So that brings us to the next lesson, the backup and migrate lesson. So as I go into configuration to edit backup and migrate stuff, I see a status report that's telling me there's some problems. So I'm going to check the report, and I see, oh, the system date formats need to be set, so I'm going to just tweak these. I think this is like a bug or something that I've just started noticing recently with Drupal. That annoying error didn't, it either wasn't there or it wasn't so persistent before. So the lessons may have skipped over some of this stuff, and it's just because it's something I just now started noticing. And maybe even with this brand new core release, that is Drupal 7.2 that we just installed. Okay, so I'm going to get back to backup and migrate stuff. In configuration, I hit backup and migrate, so now I'm in the backup and migrate configuration. I'm going to enlarge this text just to make sure that you guys can see everything. First thing it's telling me to do is set my file system settings to the private file systems path needs to be set. So I told you guys that you could use sites default private. You could also use sites your site name /private. You know, typically either way is fine. The distinction is only relevant for multi-site installations, where we like our Drupal installation is one Drupal core with a bunch of sites sitting underneath it. And I'm not going to get too far into that, but anyway, for the private file systems path, you can just use sites default private. or you could easily use sites, your site URL /private. And I'll hit save. And then I can get back into backup and migrate and set a schedule. So there's no schedules right now. I need to add a schedule. I want to back up every 1 hour, and I want to keep, say, 12 hours worth of backups. And I want the destination to go in the scheduled backups directory. And you could add more destinations. You can add multiple schedules. You can add multiple different profiles. But typically, I would say for almost any site, you only need really one destination and one profile. And I hit save, and it's that easy. Now, configuring CK Editor is a little bit more complicated. Before I jump into CK Editor, we already have a question about that. Are there any questions about the stuff we've done so far? Okay, good. So I'm going to configure CK Editor now. So everybody knows what a WYSIWYG is. It stands for what you see is what you get, and it's a visual way of editing HTML. And using a WYSIWYG just makes it a lot easier on your users, your content managers to create HTML content without having to use code, without having to actually use HTML tags. So it's just a really handy feature, and it's what I think a lot of users come to expect, because this is how all the blog platforms work, like WordPress, Blogger, Tumblr, and so forth, all come with CK editors. We're used to seeing them every day, so it makes sense to put one in your Drupal site. For every input format, I can install an editor. We only have CK Editor available. It's my preferred editor for some reason. It's just more or less a habit. So it's the one I'm giving you guys to use. And for, actually, I'm moving too fast. For the full HTML input format, I'm going to select CK Editor. Can you say that again?
Can you customize this per user, or is it once there's not one user in the backend, everybody gets the same editor?
That's a really good question. I'd never really thought of it before. The simple answer is every user gets the same editor. But because you can install different editors for each input format, you could kind of hack together a way to give users their own preference. So I could add additional input formats for Jane Doe's input format, and then give her the choice of an editor. Does that make sense? And input formats are in a different place in configuration. I don't remember if we really get into that in the lessons or not, but email me on the forum if you want more information on input formats. They're really cool and really powerful way of managing input and output of content. Okay, so I've selected CKEditor and I've saved it. And now I'm going to edit this profile and add, well, let's check out, see what's in basic setup. I'm going to leave enabled by default on. I could let users choose. I can let users choose their default on and off. And I can show this enable disable link in the text fields. And before I get to buttons and plugins, I need to take a break and read this text question. Do you have to install CKEditor to be able to use this, or is it already installed through Drupal core? This is okay. So viewer 7. I'm going to have to show you guys how to identify yourself, so I don't have to refer to you as viewer 7. But viewer 7 asks, do you have to install CKEditor to be able to use this, or is it already installed through Drupal core? You have to install the CKEditor software in your Drupal platform on the server before you have access to it. And we already did that for you because it's one of those things that you would likely just have to bang your head against the desk for a couple hours to figure out. So we've made it easy on you, and it's already installed. But if you were going to install Drupal fresh on your own, you would have to download CKEditor from the CKEditor website, right? So CKEditor is a totally separate platform. And I can download it here. Viewer 7, are you on the call? Or can you hear me, or do I need to type my answer?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then sitting on top of CKEditor is the WYSIWYG module. So the WYSIWYG module, the WYSIWYG Drupal module provides a bridge to make CKEditor work with Drupal. And it's really nice. And normally all these buttons and things that we're configuring in a visual way would be configured in code in a typical CKEditor installation. So this is a really handy way to use it. I'm going to flip over to text chat again and answer viewer 11's question about the server. So viewer 11 asks what server are we using. This is a really typical LAMP stack, and we're running Ubuntu. And if you're curious, it's a cloud VPS on Rackspace, and typically I do some tweaks to MySQL and Apache, but it's fairly straight out of the box. And you can run Drupal on just about any Linux server. Certainly, like, I would say all of the really cheap, like $10, $5 a month shared hosting services will run Drupal without a problem. I'm going to expand on my answer via text here really quick. Can you say that again? Sorry.
Well, I wanted to know if we can use a Tomcat server. I'm using on Windows, so I want to know, do I need to use Apache or Tomcat?
That's a good question. Now, I'm really only familiar with Apache, so people do run Drupal on other servers, but I only have experience running Apache, and that's what I'm familiar with, so that's just what I use. So I guess to answer your question, you'd have to look elsewhere to find out more info about that. Okay, any other questions while we're paused?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry, are you waiting for me?
Yeah, did you say you had a question?
Well, I was thinking like I have three options. I usually use Drupal on Windows we are planning to use, so IIS, Apache, or Tomcat.
Oh.
We use Tomcat under the whole Drupal uses in Solar, so it runs on Jetty or Tomcat.
And you said you're running on Windows?
Yeah.
So,
Windows XP.
Unfortunately, that's another thing that I have no experience with. I only use Linux, with only a couple of exceptions, and certainly I've only used Linux for Drupal installations. So, unfortunately, I really can't answer the question, and I could look around for you and find some resources. Ask me again on the forum. Sorry I don't have a better answer.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's get into the buttons and plugins. I like to use only a limited number of buttons because I think it maintains some style consistency across the site that you would lose otherwise. And what I mean is, if you allow your users to like change the fonts and change the colors of text and so forth, you're going to lose some style consistency. So I only usually enable a limited number of buttons, such as, bold is a good one. Paste, italic. This is totally up to you, though, and your preferences and what you want your users to be able to do with text on the site. Okay, and then one important one that you want to enable is IMCE, and this is how users will upload images to the body field in posts. Any questions about these? I think you guys are probably pretty familiar with WYSIWYGs already. So I've saved my WYSIWYG profile settings, and I'm done. So at this point in the installation configuration process, I'm feeling ready to start creating some content, and that's what you guys will be doing pretty soon in future sessions, future assignments. Any questions about this? This is fairly basic so far, and it does get more complicated. And like I've said in a couple different ways, I really encourage you guys to move ahead and do more complicated things. Some questions like about hosting on Windows I might not be able to answer, but I certainly have a lot of experience with Drupal, and happy to answer questions if you want to go beyond the scope of the assignments. Are you guys, can you I'm going to use the rest of the session to install Drupal in the more advanced way. Do you guys have, can you indicate to me whether you have familiarity or comfort with command line server stuff, or should I use FTP? Or does that question even make sense? Either works, not familiar with either. Okay. Yeah, let's use FTP. So I've got FileZilla open. And so the first thing I'm going to do is, okay, so FTP FileZilla is a way of, oops, I just lost it. FileZilla is a way of logging into a server and viewing the files on the server in a visual way, and it also allows you to transfer files onto and off of the server. And so the first step when you're installing Drupal in the more advanced way is to upload Drupal to your server. So I'm going to log in, and I have, oh wait, we're on, I have to log in via SFTP. And you guys don't have logins to this server. If you want a username and a password to get into the server to play around with this stuff, just let me know. It's no problem. I have this Sean demo username and password.
What are you using? Is it FileZilla client?
This is FileZilla. It's the only FTP client I use, and I don't know, you might have a preference for something else. I've just never ventured out and used any other ones. As a side note, sorry?
I'm familiar with this.
Okay, so I'm logged into Drupal. I'm logged into my server, and now I need to download Drupal onto my hard drive before I can push it up to the server. So I go to Drupal.org, and I hit the Get Started link. I'm just finding the package. Here's the newest Drupal 7.2 version. So because I'm using FTP, I have to download Drupal to my hard drive on my computer before I can upload it to the server. So it's downloading. Looks like it's done. I'm going to unpack it, unzip it. Can you say that again? The audio for me is really quiet, so I'm having trouble hearing.
What's the difference between the development and the recommended email? Development is in the process of developing, and recommended is further down.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So any Drupal project, like Drupal core or themes or modules, they will typically have a stable release, a beta release, maybe an alpha release, maybe a release candidate, and they will typically always have a dev release. And so this is a way for the developers to work on their code in a public sort of way. And so that way you can test out their dev version. Maybe you find some bugs and you can help them. You can help those developers by submitting patches and so forth. So typically the projects will have like a standard release that you should be using probably, and then they'll have a dev version. So the stable release is in green and the dev version is in red. And then there are some instances where if something breaks on your site, and you can narrow it down to one particular module, you might want to try downloading the dev version of the module to see if that fixes your problem. That's all kind of getting a little more advanced. It's something that you'll just learn, I think, from experience. Anyway, so I downloaded the stable release in green, and it should be in my downloads folder on my computer. Okay, so now I'm just going to upload Drupal to the server via FTP. But actually, because this takes a really long time, I'm going to do the same thing via the command line. Okay, so I'm uploading via FTP, and this is, at this point in the process, you would just kind of go to lunch or, go get a cup of coffee or something, because it takes a while. If you do it by the command line, it's very quick. So because we're running out of time, I just went ahead and downloaded Drupal via the command line. So it's on my server. And then I need to configure Apache. And this is what you would have your web host do if you were doing this. If you aren't familiar with configuring Apache, you would just have your host provider do this. I'm breezing through some of this stuff because it's way outside the scope of what we're doing. And we are running out of time. We'll get through as much as we can. What was that question?
To what level are they uploading the file? Root level on the server?
Oh, it's in my user home directory, but you can put the files anywhere. As long as you just tell Apache where you put the files, it doesn't matter. So Drupal is in /home/Sean or /Sean demo Drupal 7.2. Oops. Guys, I'm going to stop the FTP process because it just takes forever. But you can see it started here, and then this one with the lowercase d is the one that I downloaded via the command line. Does that make sense to everybody? I did it 2 different ways, but the FTP was a lot slower. We're running out of time, so I sort of cheated and did it the fast way. So now that Drupal's installed on the server, I can navigate into here, and a lot of the customizations are in the sites folder within Drupal. So you have sites/all and sites/default. In order to install Drupal, the server needs to be able to write to the default folder. So I'm not sure how the server is. Again, I'm going to flip over to the command line. So you want to make sure that your server has access to write to the Drupal installation. So again, I did it 2 different ways, via FileZilla in the graphical way and via the command line. So in FileZilla, you can just set the permissions. Okay. File permissions are a really tricky thing. There is a, or at least to me they are, I don't know, you guys might be better sysadmins than I am, but in one of the discussion forums, I pointed to an article that goes over file permissions, server file permissions for Drupal in a little bit more depth. So take a look at that. It's in the general forum area. It's a really good article. If you have trouble finding the article in the forum, just drop me a note. I can send the link to you directly. Okay, so I realize I have to do. I'm talking really fast, and I didn't do something in Apache that I need to do. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I had to use my big screen, and